The air grew cold, the forest loomed, its ancient trees standing like silent sentinels. The mist curled around the trunks, whispering secrets of the past. The forest was alive, breathing, watching. Each step forward felt like a betrayal. The ground beneath Thomas's feet was soft, almost as if it were trying to pull him in, to make him a part of the forest forever. The leaves rustled, not with the wind, but with the weight of unseen eyes. Thomas, driven by a desperate hope, entered the cursed woods. His heart pounded in his chest, a drumbeat of fear and determination. He had heard the stories, the warnings, but he couldn't turn back. Not now. Not when his brother's fate hung in the balance. His brother, lost to youthful daring a week before, beckoned him forward. Thomas could almost hear his voice, a faint echo in the distance, calling out to him. The bond between them was unbreakable, forged in the fires of shared childhood adventures and unspoken promises. The townsfolk warned of whispers in the dark, of trees that moved when no wind blew. They spoke of shadows that danced just out of sight, of creatures that lurked in the corners of your vision. But Thomas was undeterred. He had to find his brother, no matter the cost. But family ties, strong as iron, pulled him deeper into the woods. Each step was a testament to his resolve, a silent vow that he would not leave without his brother. The forest seemed to sense his determination, its oppressive presence growing stronger with each passing moment. The setting sun, a bleeding wound in the sky, cast long, ominous shadows. The light filtered through the trees, creating a mosaic of darkness and fleeting hope. It was as if the forest itself was trying to swallow the last remnants of daylight, to plunge Thomas into an eternal night. Darkness crept in, promising unknown terrors. The forest was a labyrinth of shadows and secrets, each turn a potential trap. Thomas's breath came in short, sharp gasps, his fear a tangible presence. But he pressed on, driven by the unyielding love for his brother, ready to face whatever horrors the forest had in store. The deeper Thomas ventured, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. The sunlight, once dappled and playful, vanished. Giant trees, their branches gnarled and twisted, choked out the sky. A low, guttural whisper slithered through the undergrowth. It seemed to come from the very trees themselves, their voices ancient and full of malice. Unease coiled in Thomas's stomach. He pushed on, his fear a living thing. Thorns, thick as a man's thumb, tore at Thomas's clothes. Vines, slick with an unnatural dew, snagged at his feet, attempting to trip him. The forest, once serene, now felt predatory. He stumbled over a moss-covered log, its surface oddly smooth and cold. As he fell, he glimpsed carvings on its side, grotesque faces contorted in silent screams. A chill, sharper than any winter wind, pierced his bones. Panic began to rise in Thomas's chest, choking him. He was being watched. He could feel eyes on him, cold and calculating, following his every move. But when he turned, there was nothing there. The whispers grew louder now, swirling around him like a vortex of despair. They taunted him with his brother's name, their voices dripping with false concern. But Thomas pressed on, his resolve hardening. Night fell, a suffocating blanket of darkness. The forest floor seemed to writhe with unseen life. The air grew heavy, thick with the smell of damp earth and decay. Fear, primal and consuming, threatened to overwhelm Thomas. He stumbled forward, his hand outstretched, groping blindly through the darkness. The whispers intensified, becoming a cacophony of voices all around him, within him. They were winning, dragging him down into their abyss. Section 6. A Glimmer of Hope. Just when Thomas thought all hope was lost, a faint light flickered in the distance. It was barely perceptible at first, a mere glimmer that could easily be mistaken for a trick of the eye. But as he squinted and focused, the light grew steadier, more real. It was as if the universe had decided to throw him a lifeline, a beacon to guide him out of the abyss, a beacon of salvation in the heart of darkness. The light seemed to pulse with a life of its own, cutting through the oppressive gloom that had enveloped the forest. It was a stark contrast to the suffocating darkness that had threatened to consume him. The light was not just a physical phenomenon, it was a symbol of hope, a promise of safety and salvation. With renewed determination he surged forward, his heart pounding with a mixture of hope and dread. Each step felt like a battle against the shadows that clung to him, trying to pull him back into despair. But the light was a powerful motivator, urging him to keep moving, to keep fighting. His breath came in ragged gasps, but he didn't care. All that mattered was reaching that light. The whispers recoiled as if burned by the light. They had been his constant companions in the darkness, filling his mind with doubt and fear. But now, they seemed to shrink away, their power diminished by the presence of the light. It was as if the light had the power to banish not just the physical darkness, but the darkness within his soul as well. They hissed and spat, their voices laced with fury. The shadows seemed to writhe and twist as if in pain. They were not willing to give up their hold on him so easily, but Thomas was no longer afraid. The light had given him strength, a newfound courage that he hadn't known he possessed. He could feel the darkness trying to claw its way back into his heart, but he resisted with every fiber of his being. But Thomas pressed on, drawn towards the light like a moth to a flame. Each step brought him closer to salvation, to freedom from the darkness that had plagued him for so long. The light was his guiding star, his beacon of hope in a world that had seemed devoid of it. And as he moved closer, he could feel the warmth of the light enveloping him, promising a new beginning, a fresh start. Section 7, Embrace of the Unknown. The light led him to a clearing, a sanctuary in the heart of the cursed woods. In the center stood a towering oak, its branches reaching towards the sky like skeletal fingers, and beneath it, a figure huddled, shrouded in shadow. Thomas's breath hitched in his chest. Could it be his brother? Hope and fear warred within him. He called out, his voice hoarse, but the figure remained motionless. Section 8, The Curse's Grip. As Thomas drew closer, the shadows seemed to writhe and coil around the figure's feet. They reached out towards him, tendrils of darkness seeking to ensnare him. He hesitated, a knot of dread tightening in his stomach. Then the figure turned and Thomas's blood ran cold. It was his brother, but his eyes were empty sockets, his skin pale and decaying. The curse had taken him, twisted him into something monstrous. Section 9. The Unseen Terror. The creature that was once his brother lunged. It was a night like no other, the air thick with an unsettling silence that seemed to press down on the forest. The moonlight barely pierced through the dense canopy, casting long, twisted shadows that danced eerily on the forest floor. Thomas could hardly believe his eyes as he saw the creature, a grotesque parody of his brother, moving with a predatory grace. The transformation had been swift and brutal, leaving behind nothing but a monstrous shell driven by an insatiable hunger. Its scream, a tortured rasp, echoed through the silent trees. The sound was unlike anything Thomas had ever heard, a chilling blend of agony and rage that seemed to reverberate through his very bones. The forest, once a place of solace and peace, had become a nightmarish landscape where every rustle of leaves and snap of a twig sent shivers down his spine. He could feel the malevolent presence of the creature, its eyes glowing with a sinister light as it closed in on him. Thomas stumbled back, his foot catching on a root. Panic surged through him as he struggled to regain his balance, his mind racing with thoughts of escape. But the forest seemed to conspire against him, its twisted roots and gnarled branches forming an almost sentient barrier that hindered his every move. He could hear the creature's heavy breathing, a guttural sound that grew louder with each passing second, driving him to the brink of despair. He fell, the creature upon him, its touch cold and lifeless. And then silence. The weight of the creature pinned him to the ground, its icy fingers wrapping around his throat with a vice-like grip. Thomas could feel the life draining from his body, his vision blurring as darkness closed in. The forest seemed to hold its breath, the usual cacophony of nocturnal sounds replaced by an oppressive, suffocating silence that amplified his terror. The only sound, the beating of Thomas's own heart, a frantic drum against the backdrop of the cursed woods. Each thud echoed in his ears, a desperate reminder of his dwindling time. He could feel the creature's breath, cold and fetid, against his skin, its eyes boring into his soul with an unrelenting hunger. The forest, once a place of life and growth, had become a twisted realm of death and despair, its very essence corrupted by the presence of the unseen terror. He was alone, lost in the darkness, another victim claimed by the unseen terror. The realization hit him like a tidal wave, a crushing sense of hopelessness that threatened to consume him entirely. The forest, with its labyrinthine paths and shadowy depths, had become his prison, a place where the line between reality and nightmare blurred. As the creature's grip tightened, Thomas knew that he was not the first to fall prey to the unseen terror. and he would not be the last. The forest would continue to claim its victims one by one, until its insatiable hunger was finally sated.